Hey, this is Terry Lomax from Mocha Girls Pit Stop, the blog where women of color refuel on motivation and ignite their lives. Today, we have a very special guest on Mocha Girls Pit Stop TV for our Mocha Girl on a Mission initiative. Today's guest is a model, a mother, the founder of Fan's Favorite Fan, a mental health advocate, and an overall amazing, trailblazing woman. Dawn is a freelance writer, and her work has been featured in Rolling Out Magazine, Atlanta Parent Magazine, 27 Magazine, Baller Alert, we love Baller Alert, and Essence.com. Dawn, welcome to the show.
Thank you. How are you?
I'm good, Dawn. How are you? I know we had some technical difficulties today, but we're being creative, and we're going to make this thing work, right?
Right. I'm down with it, you know?
So, Dawn, can you just start off by telling us why you are a Mocha Girl on a Mission? And basically, that's a woman who is living dynamically in the face of adversity.
Well, number one, I put a face on mental illness. I'm very blessed. I tell in our community that you shouldn't claim certain things. You shouldn't say, I am this. When you say that, you claim whatever negative imagery or thought that comes after the I am. I agree with that, but I also feel as if I don't claim what my flaws are, what my issues are, what my weaknesses may be, then there's no progress or a way to develop some type of strength or power from that. Mm-hmm. So knowing that when I was diagnosed with mental illness, when I was in high school, ever since then I've been able to put a face, on mental illnesses, because there's really nobody in our community really pushing it, talking about it, unless they have some type of platform where they're celebrity, mm-hmm. that type of thing. And mm-hmm. I'm just your everyday chick, who loves football and will sit up here and throw out, some stats that you need to know. But at the same time, I'll share with you, my journey with being bipolar, and that's what puts me on a mission every single day.
Oh, that's so amazing! I love it. Dawn, you about to make me cry. We ain't even get started yet. You ain't even get started yet. So, Dawn, I want to know, because I didn't do as much research on the disorder, because I wanted to just sit here, transparent, honest, and just have you kind of educate me and the viewers. So can you kind of walk us back to you being in high school and you getting this diagnosis of, having bipolar disorder? What was that like for you? What did you think of this disorder? Like, what was that like for you, that experience?
It was scary. I've just recently, maybe 2 years ago, before I started my healthy lifestyle journey that I've been sharing via Instagram and just social media in general, I just kind of really shared what really pushed me to be more vocal. It was the support that I had from my grandmother and my mother, who were very strong women. They were very well known in the state of Mississippi for community service and politics and things of that nature. But for me, it was, the reaction of people around me when it was thought or assumed that, she's missing school and, we know she gets around, so here comes the bullying or the stigma of, because she sleeps around and she does this, she has an STD or and hospitalized for this, or she's being hospitalized for that. I was actually being hospitalized for, the mental illness, and we didn't know how to effectively communicate that and share that with people around us yet, so it was like, I can talk about being promiscuous in high school and being out there, but do you know my background? I'm not excusing what I did or the choices that I made, but I was sexually abused by my father between the ages of 4 and 8, right about about 9 was when I actually said something about it. So coming from that type of background, I share that because that was one of my triggers, and it was a trauma that caused, the chemical imbalance to be created for the most part, as well as lead me to this point. So when I tell people, in high school, there are lots of things that you never know somebody could be dealing with. Somebody could be pregnant, their sophomore year in high school, but you may not know that they were molested by a family member, and that, that's what caused it. You get what I'm saying?
Yeah, absolutely.
So for me, it was scary because it was figuring out how to communicate that with other people outside of our house, but at the same time, I had to figure out what it actually meant because,
right.
At the time, right, at the time or so, thoughts, I feel like I don't need to live. I feel like it's time for me to die. I'm removing myself from the various things that really, really help me push myself to accomplish certain things while I'm in school. And, just not being myself. I'm not even attending sporting events. And so, that was a red flag immediately for my mom.
Right.
She was just like, what's going on? But it wasn't until, the instance where I tried to overdose on certain medication that was laying around in the house for the most part. And, using alcohol to get it down or what have you, and coming to school, and there's a guidance counselor who sees me, knows me, everyone knows my demeanor, and she's noticing that there's something different. That's when that was when she was like, we needed, when we were talking, that's when more came out, that there's a possibility of depression.
Right.
From the depression discussion, it was you need to see a therapist as well as maybe a psychiatrist. Start with the therapist, see what my insurance could cover, and then if I needed to see a psychiatrist, then that was going to that next level. But yeah, the beginning parts of it was scary, which is why I tell people I'm 31 now. I was diagnosed at 15. There's nothing that somebody can say right now that can, upset me about the fact I am bipolar.
Right.
You don't understand what I had to endure in the beginning stages of figuring out what it was, number one, figuring out how to help myself do what they could with the very limited resources that they had in South Mississippi to deal with their daughter, granddaughter, sister, cousin who's dealing with this mental illness. And then, being at this point where I know everything about it, I can share with you, my daily things that I deal with. And I do that online, and it's I just met with a young man, if I'm not mistaken, maybe 2 days ago. And it's moving to know that there are people that are actually connected to you in some way, whether you know some of the same people, or if they're just following you on social media, that they have been following me. He's been following me for over 7 years. Wow. And this man just finally told me that he has bipolar disorder. Wow. And it's because he's at a point where he's transitioning to deal with his own thing. So for him, he's at the point of starting at scary. He's about to be 31. So when I was 15, I dealt with that. You get what I'm saying?
Absolutely.
So that's basically, how I evolved through that process.
Okay, Dawn. So you just just blew me away. And then let me organize my thoughts, because I'm just like, what? Okay. So first, can we kind of talk about what is bipolar disorder? Because people hear it, and the sad thing is, people, when they don't know about something, when they're not educated on the topic, they just they shun or ostracize the people involved. And a lot of words that I hear are crazy, or she has different personalities. I hear that kind of stuff when people talk about the disorder. So can you actually tell us what is bipolar disorder?
Basically, bipolar disorder, it's a manic depressive illness, and with this manic depressive illness, you have periods of elevated moods where you're manic. You can do all things. Let me knock this out. I.e., for example, when I was telling you before we were getting all this together, Dawn was up to 4 o'clock. and on a deadline, I was pretty much running on a little bit of mania. You know, if I had just stayed up until it was time to do this interview, then we could say I was manic. But because I was able to rest my mind, I just know I had a little taste of it to get through a writing deadline. But you have those moments of that, and then you fall.
Gotcha.
I tell people a lot of times, you know, those periods of depression, to me, because I've been dealing with this for over 15 years. I feel as if mania is actually worse than being depressed. You know, because it's one of those things where you're on this high, and this high, when you eventually come down, it's going to throw you into a depressive mood. You're going to be in there. So for me, if I could just deal with getting through the depressive mood and then getting myself back to normal, which would be where I'm in good spirits, good moods, and all of that, then that's how I would be able to function. But I tell people it's an elevation of moods. I hate to hear people when they say, "Oh, you just bipolar today." Like, I'll see that on social media. I'll call it out immediately, and then I'll block the person, because my thing is especially for people who either engage with me on an everyday basis, you know you're following somebody who's bipolar. Don't use that casually as just a term to describe something that you are feeling or something that you feel like somebody else is doing. Now, the only time I actually allow somebody to do that is when the weather acts like that, because the weather in Atlanta,
girl, the weather everywhere is like that.
Trying to get ready to leave Mississippi, I was researching cities, and I was like, I can't take my bipolar self to Seattle. I would be done. You know, like, no. I get to Atlanta, and Atlanta is like the South. It's like the Seattle of the South. You know, you just never know. But, you know, I tell people, to me, that's probably the only time I'll let people kind of get away with calling something bipolar is the weather. That's environmental. That's circumstances. Yeah. But when you do hear those things, you know, I just shared this with the young man, and, you know, I was so moved by his story because we connected on various things. You know, the young man was telling me one of the biggest things that we connected on was that word crazy, when you're in various relationships, whether it's business, personal, or it's, you know, just a friendship, you have to watch how many times someone refers to you and calls you crazy. Because the thing is that because you don't understand that these elevated moods are a part of my illness. It's not just because my cycle's about to come on. It's not just because I feel like you did something towards me and blah, blah, blah. Like, everybody has mood swings, but not the way someone who has a mental illness off. You know, I have to shut myself off. I have to remove myself. To this day, one of the things that me and my husband actually talk about is that when we were dating, there would be periods where he couldn't reach me for like 2 weeks. You know, and he would be like, "So, hey, what's been going on? Like, I haven't been able to reach you." And it took me the longest before I kind of realized, oh, I'm running from you because I felt very moody about something, and I didn't want to take it out on you, so I didn't want you to see me like that. You know what I'm saying? So, you know, I tell people, watch who's calling you crazy. I'm not, you know, it's in the Webster's dictionary, so it's an actual word. Okay, it's okay. You can use it, but don't use it directing it towards someone who you know is mentally ill, and they're still trying to figure out how to deal. You know, me. You call me crazy all day long.
How, if someone wants to know, I know that's right. If someone wants to know if they are bipolar, how would they find out? Like, what resources are out there for them if they may think, you know, I think I might have this. You know, what can they do to find out if they do?
I tell people all the time when I share my story online, or if I share how I'm feeling throughout a day, because I tend to make sure that whenever I'm going through a manic episode, that I jump online. And one of the very first things that I'll hear, and I've shared this with many people that I've actually met in person or I've actually just communicated with via social media, is that the internet is your friend, actually, because there's lots of information that's on there that you can research. Okay, now a lot of people have a problem with going to WebMD, figuring out symptoms because you feel like the symptoms are the same for every single thing.
Yeah.
But my thing is take the time to educate yourself on that. You know, take it to Google. Like, you know, you're feeling some type of way, throw that in Google. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And see what the response is once you get it. Start there.
Right.
That's free. That's free.
Right.
You know, and I tell people that all the time because you're so worried about listening to someone else's journey and listening at how they got to where they were when you need to figure out what your journey looks like from beginning to wherever you get to. You get what I'm saying? And so I know when we found out that there was a possibility, okay, and this was just from, you know, getting to school, guidance counselor sees me upset, speaking with the guidance counselor, finds out about suicide attempt, immediately assumes depression, then getting to the hospital. That's when it really kicked in that we needed to do more research. You get what I'm saying? To me, it's my mother was a single parent. She was a single parent at the time.
Right.
So for her, you know, kind of catching signs wasn't going to be it.
Yeah.
I mean, it's, you know, it's not going to be there. But in this day and age, you can jump online and you can see, you know, okay, if I'm feeling this way, what does this mean?
Right.
You know,
exactly.
Start there. And then when you get to that point, for those who have insurance and who have primary doctors, talk to your primary doctor. That's the very next step that I will always say. Right. And I say that because you never know if your physician can refer you to a therapist that goes with your insurance, or whether they know of other free resources that you can tap into before you have to, you know, use your insurance to go somewhere else. So it's always out there. It's just a matter of you jumping and putting yourself out there to find this information, because a lot of people are just even scared to even just look.
Yeah, that's true. That's so true. They're scared to look, scared to be diagnosed, and some just kind of live with it. And I know a lot of people, my mom actually has bipolar disorder, and we did an interview last week, and she kind of talked about that. But Dawn, did you ever reconcile with your dad or ever confront him about the abuse?
The funny thing about that is you know, I the last time I was asked that question, I told them, I said, I seriously think we reconciled during the trial.
Yeah.
Like, because to this day, and I've had family members, I've had people who don't know me, I've had people on social media who kind of shamed me because I will sit up here and tell you I still love my father. Like, that's my father. My father gave me the love of sports. Like, that was our connection. My father played college basketball. He pushed, you know, his daughters to know more about sports just in general so that no one could really challenge them. You know, that was a boost of confidence for us.
Right.
And so, you know, to me, there were so many positives that I got from him versus this supposedly horrible thing. You know, it's horrible. Yes. For a child to go through that, yes.
Right.
But if you know his background, he was molested as a child. There was a history of that. So it's one of those things where in our community, we don't talk about these various issues enough to help save someone else, because I feel as if, and I can say this because I say the reconciliation happened because when I spoke up and said something, he didn't deny it. You see what I'm saying?
So
it wasn't like
to get the help that he needed.
Right, yeah. Right. It wasn't like she's lying, no nothing. So it was more like I used my voice, I spoke up, whoever hurt me admitted it. I had to go through, you know, certain things with a trial and all of those things, being as a child, you know, going through that type of experience. And then when all was said and done, we were able to see my father before he was placed in jail. And my father literally told me, he spoke to my mom first, he spoke to my brother, and he spoke to my sister. When he got down to me, he said, I just want you to know that I personally did not mean to cause you any harm, but I love that you used your voice. I mean, if if that's not reconciling, I don't. You get what I'm saying?
Yeah.
That was a moment. That was a moment for me to see. Okay, well, maybe it isn't as bad,
right?
As what because I have to make sure that I say this. The act itself was horrible.
Yeah, no, I understand. Yeah, I totally understand.
Yes, but it's like people make mistakes. Yeah. People are, they do the things that were done to them. Hurt people, hurt people. Right. So maybe this helped him heal. Yeah. It's a horrible way to do it. Yeah. But that's that. So, one of the things that I shared via social media just recently, and it happened this summer, my grandmother, who was my father's mom, she passed away. Wow. And it hurt me really, really bad because I was manic. I had Periscope throughout the entire experience. Yeah. And I told people, I said where it the most that, she passed away and that death is just never easy to deal with. Right. She was one of the people who helped me get to a point where I understood what happened. When the incident happened, went to trial, dealt with that, went to therapy, and then my mom moved me and my siblings to Mississippi, and then it was like, let's move on. Wow. And I'm like, but I want to talk about it. You know what I'm saying? And because here it is. I'm like 8 and 9. I know too much about my body and other people's bodies right about now. And so it, dealing with that and moving past that. So for me, hearing him say something like that has always stuck with me, because people will tell me, don't say you're this, don't claim that, you're not that, blah, blah, blah. No, I have to, because the very person who did something to me that should have broke me told me to use my voice. Right. That's a blessing in itself. Yeah. So, we reconciled, and I've forgiven him. I think I forgave him probably right around when I was in junior high, and I started, dating and things like that, or dealing with boys, and I was like, I can't, Yeah. But it's one of those things where I let it go, because it's gonna fester and it's gonna turn into something else, and that pain and that hurt turned into who I am now. Like, I'm sitting here sharing a tweet or an Instagram post or something on my blog, and I guarantee you I'm going to have like 20 to 30 people in my inboxes or my email asking me more questions, and then over 15 of them are actually getting help. So that's tremendous. Yeah, that's amazing, Dawn. And did you ever go to therapy or anything to kind of process all that? Yes. That's a lot to deal with as a child. Yes, it is. I was court-ordered therapy right after. My mom had to join me as well. And then when we moved to Mississippi, we did therapy for a couple of years. And then right when I was like maybe 7th grade, right at 7th grade was when we didn't continue therapy. Okay. Then I feel as if, by the time of my sophomore year in high school, that's when everything kind of just blew up. You get what I'm saying? And so from that point, I did therapy until the end of high school, and then I ended up, getting an out-of-state scholarship to a university, and I moved. That first year was very rocky for me. I didn't know how to transition, and when I say transition, like when you're dealing with an illness and you're moving and starting this new experience in life, transitioning as well as in an environment you're not familiar with, you need to know what's around you, what's available. You know? So, because I had a suicide attempt my freshman year in college, and it was. I tried to hang myself in my room, and the thing is that one of the girls that lived next door to me, she heard something fall, which happened to be the chair. And the thing is she immediately came running because she had access to my room, because I had already communicated with the, one of the dorm RAs. You know, I have this illness, so if I have a down day, I need to make sure I have somebody that can come in and check in on me. So lo and behold, she came, and that's how she found me. And ambulance, everything on campus. Like it was probably one of the most talked about things at Fort Valley State during that time, because it's an HBCU. So nobody really knows, you know, how to again talk about the conversation of, you know, here's this Black girl dealing with this issue that majority of your mother's brothers, cousins, uncles, anybody around you has been dealing with, and they've, you know, masked it either with being promiscuous or alcohol, drugs, or, you know, just lying to themselves, you know.
Exactly, right? It's the truth. That's the truth. Wow. So Dawn, can you tell me a little bit about your daily routine? Because I do have a few family members who are bipolar, and they don't necessarily know how to. They're still trying to figure it out and figure out what it means for them and their lifestyle. So what are some things that you do to kind of assist you in being the best Dawn that you can be?
Oh, well, you know, with knowing where, you know, I was in college, one of the things I had promised myself was that when I was ready to, you know, start a family, or, you know, wanted to get married, I wanted to make sure that I understood my illness first. You know, even though I knew what I was dealing with, was diagnosed, that still didn't mean that I knew, you know. So after dealing with that experience, I made sure that I jumped into the internet to find out the different types of therapies that people that have mental illnesses do. So one thing that I do on a daily basis is, and I share this on Snapchat a lot, I listen to music, instruments that I like, and I try to find the same music along that wavelength. What that does is it makes me concentrate on my emotions and the feelings that it's giving me. So it takes me to a whole nother place, to a sense where, why am I upset? Why am I feeling like I can conquer the world right now? And all I'm trying to do is finish the dishes. Like,
right.
Like, why are you trying to plan this total world domination, and you're just trying to figure out which dishes you're going to put in the dishwasher and which ones you're going to actually hand wash, you know, because I'm country. I hand wash dishes.
Me too.
So yeah, you know, music therapy has been very, very crucial, and that was something that I learned coming from that college experience. And then another thing that I dabbled into, and I still do to this day, is art therapy. I don't do art myself. What I do is I pay attention to certain artists and their emotional, you know, direction that they take with their artwork, like that. So doing something like that was very important. But on a day-to-day basis, music is always going to be one thing that's going to be effective in shifting my moods. One of the very first things that I do when I wake up is I do meditate, which is why I have on my little yogi, you know, wrap here.
Yes. I love
it. I meditate first thing in the morning before I get started, so that I can center myself. You can Google various yoga poses. You can Google the importance of meditation. I read tons of books. I try to read a book a day. It's hard for people to understand how I'm able to do that, but have you ever heard of like audiobooks? Have you ever heard of having the books on your phone? It's possible. But I love to have physical books as well. Other people in the world may not know that you have a mental illness, so it's up to you to understand that what's directed at you isn't meant to stay on you. That's anybody that doesn't have a mental illness. You can take offense to something that's been said, an email that was sent, a text message that was sent that didn't even say, "Hey, good morning," you know. But it's up to you to know how you're going to respond. That's why I tell people who, when they do find out that they have a mental illness or they have depression that they're going to be dealing with or what have you, like, it's okay. Now you know what your issue is or what your illness is. Now it's up to you to respond. You know, you find out more about that. I figure out, because I'm dealing with various people. I'm married. I have 5 children. I have 3 children. 22, 16, 4-year-old. Like, I'm dealing with various attitudes and personalities, you know, on a daily basis. But outside, you work with my husband and his love, that comes with a lot of issues and people that he employs, you know, and clients that he deals with. Then I work in the sports industry. And, you know, with me being a wife, you know, and a mother, there aren't a lot of us that are like me in the industry who are, you know, chasing behind student athletes or professional athletes just to get an interview. You know what I'm saying? So, you know, I'm dealing on a daily basis. I'm dealing with tons of, you know, things that are directed at me. So on a daily basis, I have to make sure that I figure out, okay, Dawn, how are you feeling? Like, I'll ask myself. It's not crazy to ask yourself how you're feeling. It's not crazy to ask yourself if you need to take a minute to go outside, walk around your work office or the building. Go outside and walk around a couple of times. Watch how much better you feel when you come back in. You know, that's, you know, I tell people I work out at minimum 2 to 3 times a day. And to me, I have to explain what working out for me would be. You know, it's either yoga, Pilates, going to the gym for 30 to 45 minutes, because I'm never in the gym for more than an hour. Ain't nobody got time for all that. Like, that's ridiculous.
She said nobody got time for all that.
And so it's those 3 things, or I'll do a boot camp, you know, 2 or 3 times a week or something, and then go from there. You know, you can do a workout where you're doing cardio, running up and down some stairs, you know, playing with your children in some form of fashion is a workout, because, you know, you're moving. So for me, doing those things on a daily basis and watching what I eat has been crucial for my mental illness, because one of the things that I learned by doing a Tierra Goes Green detox, which you can Google and you can find that information, Tierra Goes Green, is that mentally, the biggest part for me when dealing with that detox was the mental aspect. You know, it wasn't even the physical, because I was at 222 pounds dealing with PCOS and hypothyroid issues and being bipolar. My biggest issue was just being bipolar now, you know, being in this new role of being a wife and a mother of 5, you know, and then trying to find my own way, because I went from a housewife to a working woman now, you know. It's, you know, it's one of those things where on a daily basis, I'm always reassessing myself. Take a minute before you start your day to know what you're doing for your day, as well as to know how you feel at that moment in time, so that when you go out, you jump in traffic, you start snapping at somebody who cut you off, you'll realize, oh, I need to check that. Let me listen to my favorite song.
Exactly.
Let me think some positive thoughts. You know, let me take myself back somewhere else. Then when you get to work, the employee or coworker who didn't do what they were supposed to do, and it ends up falling on you, you won't feel some type of way. It'll be like, okay, let me just get this done. You know, then you go throughout your day, you've got to eat something, you got to nourish your body, figure out what that looks like for you, you know, because a lot of people swear I'm vegan. I'm not vegan yet. I use that hashtag almost for a reason, you know, but I pay attention to what I'm eating, and those things contribute to how you can function on a daily basis. And to me, it's crucial. It's crucial.
That is so deep, Dawn. You are dropping some serious knowledge, girl. What about what advice? Because I know a lot of women who, sadly enough, who have been abused by a family member or a parent, you know, sexually. What advice do you have for them as far as moving forward and forgiving and just kind of, you know, not letting that define their current situation or their future?
That's a good question, because I could have went so far left. I was headed there, but I could have went so far left. To me, it's forgive yourself. Forgive yourself. And I say that because, you know, a lot of people say, but you were the victim. You didn't do anything. No, what I start thinking after it happened, and once I actually said something, I blamed myself. So it was more so like, it's completely your fault. It's, you know, you shouldn't, you know, under your father that much. You know, you shouldn't have, you know, did certain things. It's forgive yourself. Forgive yourself. You know, when you forgive yourself and understand that that was a circumstance and that it was just a part of you getting to a point where you're going to evolve into a greater version of yourself, then that in itself is confidence. That's power. You take the power back. To me, that's when I was able to get power back. When I said, you know what? I'm sorry, Dawn. It's okay. It's okay. Now let's deal. Now let's figure out what you need on a daily basis in order for you to really function. I've shared with many young girls who still had to live in the same household with the molester, or, you know, young boys, they you know, let's not leave them out in this discussion, because that's something else in the Black community that we don't talk about, is how our young boys are treated. So some of them, they can't get away from the people who did the things that they did to them. But one of the things that I tell them is that you figure out how you deal with that. You figure out your interaction with that person. You figure out how to limit those things. You figure out your escape. And I'm talking about as young as 12. I don't see how these kids find me sometimes on social media or on the internet. I know majority of kids that have hit me between the ages of 10 to maybe 18, they found me through my blog. So, it's one of those things where I tell them it's not your fault. It's really not your fault. But guess what? It happened. It happened. So observe your feelings. Know how you feel, because when you know those things, for me, when I expressed that I was promiscuous, because during that particular time, I wasn't doing any therapy. I wasn't able to talk to anybody about some of the things that I was dealing with, but I was very vocal in saying, you know, Mom, I'm having sex now. Like, do birth control, because it's going to happen.
It's going down.
You're right. Like, and my grandmother was like, well, she kept it real, you know, let's take her to the clinic and go through the process. But then it was like, okay, we might need to put you back in therapy, but it never happened. So therefore, you know, me not knowing how to deal with those feelings, not figuring out how to find another outlet. I ran track, you know, from 7th grade up until the end of high school, and I played basketball high school years. To me, I didn't put my all into those two things to know that the things that I was trying to do off the track or off the basketball court, you know, all that energy could have been redirected. So know where to direct your energy. Your energy shouldn't be somebody did something to me. It should be they did this to me. I'm okay. I'm moving forward. I now know how I feel about it.
Girl, this is good stuff. So what about, because I know I don't want this recorder to cut off on us. So can you just talk a little bit about what you're working on right now? I know you have Fan's Favorite Fan. Can you talk a little bit about that and why you created that avenue for women? I hope you enjoyed the interview. Dawn is an absolute rock star. If you enjoyed this interview and want to receive more inspirational content, feel free to head over to mochagirlspitstop.com. You can subscribe to our blog today, and you will receive free resources along with an inspirational newsletter. Hope to see you there. See you next time.